Welcome into episode 3 of Betting the Pitch NFL edition. That's what we've got the name up to. Thank you for sliding the DMs and everyone saying you are not concerned that there's another gambling podcast on a soccer podcast network, but we're here, we're queer, we'll get used to it. We're having fun. Welcome to one of my best friends in the world, Andrew Schnicker, _SCHNITKER on Twitter. Of course, you got me, the real _ G Warner, who's on this feed as much as probably any of you can handle it. And we're going to get into week 2 NFL lines. As we both have said, they're our favorite weeks going in. So, Schnicker, what do you think? How was week 1? Do we still feel like week 2 is going to be the best week ever?
I always think the next week is going to be the best week ever. That's the mentality I always have, but you got to put in the hard work to make that happen. Week 1 was a mixed bag. I kind of picked off a couple things over the summer, and so that was fine. The actual things we wanted to go into for Sunday, it didn't go as well, but I think overall we're going to do okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of really odd results in week 1. Of course, I think I'm actually alive in Survivor, which is a very odd result for me. It doesn't usually happen that way. And we'll get right into this. We'll talk about lines where they came out last week, where they're at now, and then where we expect things to move. But we'll go into this as we are going to make this a brief and to the point episode, because I know that's what you all want. All lines going to this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced use is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description, fund your account. Use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. And if you're not following either of us on Twitter, we'll give those at the end of the program, as we did already, but you should be on there. Feel free to slide in our DMs. Andrew's a married man. I am not, so slide however you'd like into mine. But let's talk, I guess with Thursday Night Football, we'll go to the Minnesota Vikings visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. I have the open at 7, and it looks like it's still there.
Yeah, no movement at all. And like even last week, look ahead lines 7, same spot. We're gonna get some fun narrative of Kirk Cousins in primetime.
Ooh, yeah.
There's also a rematch of a primetime game from last year where the Vikings fell on their face and the Eagles really proclaimed themselves as true contenders. Takeaways from week 1. Vikings, some of that regression potentially coming back into play. They lose to the Buccaneers at home, as they closed at about 4.5 point favorites. But if you look into the box score, if you look at the play-by-play of that one, the Vikings, they lost 2 scoring drives within the Vikings or within the Buccaneers green zone, 1 within the red zone. They also fumbled a ball at their own 24-yard line, giving the Bucs 3 extra points. A lot of missed opportunities, and that's a lot of what I would say is looking through some of those drive charts and looking through week to week to see which team screwed up those chances, because in this league it's such slim margins. I'm not totally casting off the Vikings as a team this year. It's just a tough spot to be in with the defending NFC champions hosting and with that defense. I don't know. I'm anxious to hear what you thought about the Eagles game. Obviously, they got off to a massive start. I was expecting more from the defense and didn't see the same kind of pop that I thought I saw last year. So that's interesting to me, something to monitor.
I'll come in now. So the Eagles, I think we most would have expected a win in week 1. There's always, I think, the part of me that thinks the Patriots are going to suddenly turn into a Bill Belichick team again. But I feel like that might never happen again. I think that might have been a Brady thing, or a combination of cheating and other teams not being up to that same type of cheating level, or just level in general. To your point about the Vikings, I think it was a game they should have won, especially at home. And I feel like it kind of speaks to just some questions about how much that home field advantage actually means. I think it's going to look like a pretty bad loss down towards the end of the season. As we know, the NFC South is not expected to do much. But certainly to the narratives about Kirk Cousins, but they're narratives for a reason, because he's really struggled against good teams. And to me, a 7-point favorite, I mean, to me, it seems like that is begging you, not necessarily on like a gambling side of things, but if you're betting Minnesota, you're expecting them to play, like, probably take a lead or at least hang with Philadelphia for 60 full minutes. And I don't really see that happening, which makes me feel like a 7-point number almost feels a little short at the current.
Yeah, I think probably bookmakers feel good at that spot, because if you start going higher, you get that hook in there, then you're going to get a lot of money coming in just because of the NFL in general and the margin of victory.
Sure, with teasers and things of that nature. So let's move to Sunday. We'll start with the first in rotation order. That's the LA Chargers visiting Tennessee. Looks like the Chargers are 3.5-point favorite on the open, very juiced to Tennessee at home. Now it looks like it's split -3 both ways. The Chargers with, I mean, an incredible. I was like getting the alerts on my phone. It seemed like Justin Herbert and Tua were both in the red zone every 4 minutes. It felt like, because I kept getting another notification. And I was wondering if my service was dead or something. And I kept repeating. But not a lot of defense in that first matchup. On the other side, Tennessee played a ton of defense. We were talking right before we came on. I was pretty disappointed in one of the failures to overturn after Tennessee challenged what looked like a pretty clear fumble to me. You mentioned the cover play from Mike Vrabel, which is pretty funny. I do feel like, based on Tennessee and who they are, great defensive team, love to run the rock. Kicking a field goal down 4 as time was kind of getting close to the 2-minute warning was interesting. Certainly worked to cover the spread, but I mean, we'll see what that ends up meaning. Ryan Tannehill's stat line didn't look great. And to me, it seems like if the Chargers can make this a high-scoring game, Tennessee cannot keep up. Tennessee is going to want to make this a grinder, make it as low scoring as possible, and really test the Chargers' run defense.
Yeah, and I think that's you nailed it. That's the key. You're going to look at a 16-15 score with the Titans and Saints and say, oh, that's gross. I think those two teams have two of the better defenses, just in terms of fundamentally sound and know exactly what they want to do identity wise. So that score wasn't shocking to me at all. The Chargers score, we talked about it. I really wanted to see what their offense was going to look like, actually healthy. You've got all those great skill players and an offensive line that should be one of the best in the league. And I don't think they did anything to disappoint there. And interesting that we're seeing some of the market buy that hook at 3.5 to move it down to 3. Because we're in that situation. I don't know if anyone can fully trust the Chargers. I think the whole betting market has just decided you can't really trust them. Every time you want to put something into them, they take it away from you.
I mean, they also lost the game on Sunday too, which was kind of almost like, wow, what a great game, with fantasy taking over the world. Like, oh wow, great points from Herbert and from Eckler and from everyone. But they did lose the game. They do that sort of stuff all the time. Unfortunately, I feel like there is a bias, at least that I have, where the Chargers, if they're not like blowing some team out, I expect them to blow it, and they seem to do it really, really frequently. I forgot to mention the total. So we've gone open 46.5 down to 45. So it seems like, as you said, the people are nibbling on that 3 and a hook, or 3.5 number on Tennessee. And also looks like there's some money on the under right now, which, I mean, all plays to a Tennessee direction, plus an early start for a West Coast team. I'm pretty interested in the home dog. We'll see. Next, we'll move to Green Bay at Atlanta, or we will move. And we got Atlanta opened as a 1.5-point favorite. Looks like the total was 41. That has dropped to 40.5. So not a ton of movement. And the favorite has flipped to the Green Bay Packers, now -1.5 point favorite at Bet Online. So Green Bay with a really good showing. I'm not sure if that was Chicago and really Justin Fields looking pretty bad at times, or if that was Jordan Love looking competent. Atlanta, on the other side, seemed like they had more of a game with Carolina than I feel like I was expecting. But I mean, it was supposed to be close. The spread was close, but it didn't seem like a very comfortable win to me at all. But big timeshare there with Bijan and with Tyler Algier. It looks like it might be coming, or maybe they're just slowly working Bijan in. What do you think about Desmond Ridder? I hope that's his first name, because I'll look really dumb if I said that wrong. And what do you think of Jordan Love?
We're gonna say names wrong sometimes. It's gonna happen. It does not change.
I will. I don't know about you. I will.
I was disappointed in what Desmond Ridder did. I think Arthur Miller. That's Arthur. Yes, Arthur. As I'm saying that, the head coach for the
Falcons. Arthur Brown.
Arthur Miller is the famous author, I believe.
Wow. Yeah, I don't read, but yeah, gotcha.
Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith. There we go.
Yeah, he's going to run the football. I mean, he came from Tennessee. He had Derrick Henry. I think that's probably what we're going to see. If we've had conversations about running back usage and if players will wear down. Bijan can handle a workload. He is a young, talented athlete. But I think having another more powerful type running back like Tyler Algier to also run between the tackles is certainly helpful. I love what they've done with their identity. I would love to see Drake London and Kyle Pitts a little bit more involved in that offense, but I think it also kind of talks to what Desmond Ridder was capable and not capable of doing. So the Packers, they're going to be the darlings. Everyone is fired up about what Jordan Love was, and we were kind of split on those opinions in the preseason. I think Jordan Love is going to be fine. I think the pieces around him. I'm a pretty decent fan of Matt LaFleur, and for the most part, what he can do, I guess, scheme wise. So, I mean, the Packers are probably pretty similar to what they were with Aaron Rodgers last year with Love, as long as he takes care of the football.
Yeah, I agree. I think Matt LaFleur, I agree with that. Romeo Doubs was great. I thought, didn't even know if he was going to play. I thought he was in more danger than Christian Watson, but we'll end up coming back to these games later, I think, in the show. Next, we'll move to Indianapolis. We will move to Indianapolis at Houston, game that no one cares about, but I guess we could bet it. So we do potentially. Houston opened a 1-point favorite at home with a total of 41. That is now flipped to Indianapolis, a slight 1-point favorite as well. Over under is down to 39.5, as I don't think there's a lot of expectations for offense in this one.
They would be right. You've got a defensive minded coach and a Colts team that's still trying to figure out what they want to do. Anthony Richardson, from a fantasy perspective, not terrible. I think that's probably what people expected. Some of the hits he was taking were making me cringe, just watching a quarterback assimilate to what the NFL is versus what he was able to do in college. And he has some health scares and injuries from the past. So that was making me a little nervous. What I learned more, we'll talk about with the Jags, and we'll talk about with what their offensive line wasn't able to do, but the Colts were able to get pass rush. I still think that was more to do with their opponent. I think the Texans might be okay. I think they might be okay. They ran into a team in week 1 that obviously knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty competitive with the Baltimore Ravens, I got to say. I don't think the score was as lopsided as 25-9 ended up pointing out, but clearly there's a lot of questions about the talent on both these teams. But the nice part is when they go up against each other, then those questions could potentially be answered. And weird stuff seems to happen in division. Next, we'll go to Seattle at Detroit. Currently, Detroit opened a 2.5-point favorite. Over under at 51.5. It has jumped to Detroit -6 with the total at 47, falling significantly. Probably a little bit of an overreaction to a Thursday night that everyone was watching because football had been back since February. Detroit stole a win at Kansas City. Was it deserved, in your opinion? It maybe was to me. I don't know. I mean, Kansas City clearly is down a lot of players that are very important to their Super Bowl winning team. And Seattle lost to one of the teams that everyone's expecting to compete for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I think this is the key where we're talking about with our favorite weeks being these early weeks is you're trying to like cut through what the noise is and what was actually legit. I thought the Lions, we talked about it. I thought the Lions were in a great position to cover. I talked about how I felt like that was one of my leans last week. I did not pull a trigger because that number got away from us. But I liked what the Lions could do, particularly because of what the Chiefs had. And that pick 6 obviously swung everything. But I think,
as they do.
Yes, every time in the NFL, that's going to change it. And you can't predict those kinds of things. So I thought the Lions were in a great position to cover. And then obviously the Seahawks going in and getting just trounced by the Rams. So what's real here? Like Seattle's defense wasn't great last year. It still is not very good. I think the Rams, Sean McVay is a sharp mind. And I think he pays attention whenever he's an underdog. I think that makes a difference with that team. So I'm not taking a whole lot away. Yes, like the question is pretty simple. Like we've moved to 6, but do we believe are the Lions that legit and the Seahawks that bad? And that's the question we have to answer here.
Yeah, I guess it's also nice that Detroit got to play a couple days earlier, so that in this sport, I think more than any out there, it matters to have extra rest. I don't think that extra rest is worth 3.5 points at the current difference from where we opened to where we're at now. To me, it feels like a Seattle or nothing type of situation, but we'll move now to Chicago at Tampa Bay. Currently, Chicago, I guess And initially, Chicago opened as a 1.5-point favorite on the road at Tampa with an over/under of 44. That has since then flipped to Tampa Bay -3 with the over/under at 41. So a lot less offense expected and a lot less Chicago offense expected in that number, considering how much it's moved across zero, got all the way to that magic number of 3. Certainly Tampa won in Minnesota, but as we've already mentioned, got handed some points on a silver platter, to say the least, or their defense was handed some stops that, I mean, credit them for getting them, but seemed like they were pretty fortunate. Turnovers are an ugly mistress in this world. But I think it's another question where with Justin Fields, we both backed him in week 1. We thought he was going to potentially make that sophomore jump. It's still not. I mean, the season's not over, but I was pretty disinterested, disappointed in what I saw. It almost feels like Tampa seems a little cheap here, but that does feel a little reactionary to the first week.
Yeah, and I thought Baker Mayfield actually was solid.
Which he was when he came in off the street to go to the Rams last year too. I feel like it got him this job.
I think we kind of went through that seesaw, the roller coaster of, okay, well, now he's got this position, or is he going to revert back to, oh, I'm a starter? But I thought he played with an edge. I thought he played with a chip that we haven't really seen from him, other than when he came back, when he was humbled with the Rams and led that. So I was actually pretty impressed. And I think like if he can manage the game in this matchup against the Bears team that I don't know what Fields was doing with his protections. I don't know if there's an offensive with the offensive line issues. We can talk about all the different defensive lapses of just letting Aaron Jones run wild. But I think in these situations, like in this game particularly, where Tampa Bay will not be pressed out of their comfort zone, in my opinion, I think there is an edge to Tampa. If we get to a team that has just a dynamic offense, I think that's where Tampa would struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to have to see it from Justin Fields to believe it. Holds the ball too long and, I mean, tries to use athleticism to run by everybody, which makes me think that's a huge injury risk going forward as well. I mean, Tampa I was expecting it might even climb over 3, to be frank. So I feel like if you want to buy into this Tampa start, maybe it's not completely reasonable because Minnesota did hand over quite a bit to them, but they got the confidence from a road win week 1. And I feel like this number's got to be climbing, if anything.
Interesting. Hold on. Let me,
okay, go ahead.
I was actually thinking, I'm thinking the latter, actually. I think this market's going to move back when we get off that 3. This is just our fun time to debate and figure this out. But like, I think if you're interested in the Bucs, you should wait. That's what I would say.
Okay. Well, here's our first disagreement of the year, and we'll keep a tally.
We have so many all the time. Always.
Never. We always agree. But I'm going to keep record of this because I feel pretty confident that Tampa's closing -3.5. Or if it stays 3, it's probably a little, because it's tough to move off of 3. I think if it moves to 3.5, I'm very right. If it moves to 2.5, you're very right. So we'll see where this one goes. On 3, we push.
Mark it down.
Vegas then goes to Buffalo, another kind of shock result in week 1, potentially, though it was the Broncos. And I don't know why we're buying into Sean Payton. But anyway, currently, and who knows what to talk about with that Monday night game as well. Last night, we're recording this Tuesday night for all of you. But Buffalo -8 was the initial open at 47.5 for the total. Totals just dropped slightly to 47, and the spread is up to 9.5, despite watching a Josh Allen masterpiece in the second half, really completely giving away a game against a Aaron Rodgers-less New York Jets. Maybe you could blame a little bit of weather, but hello, Buffalo in December. He's used to it. What do you think about the Raiders also? I should give them some credit for going into Denver and getting a big division win.
Yeah.
Start wherever you like.
Everyone's going to talk about Buffalo. I'm trying to like give a different take aside from what you've seen on Twitter with Josh Allen. It's alarming to see that. We've talked before. I have concerns about that coaching staff and what the messaging is to Josh Allen and where his head is right now, given some of the off-field things. So Buffalo was power rated for me as right up there. We talked last year, and I've dropped them just a smidge going into this year, and nothing changed after Monday night, but it's definitely something to monitor. The Raiders, they can't stop the run. You have a Denver offensive line, not very good. Still had Samaje Perine and Javonte Williams comfortably running through it. So what kind of game plan are we going to see from the Bills? Like if they let the ground game go and they let Josh Allen go off script, your favorite words,
Yes.
and run the ball, and he can rein it in, then I think this number is probably about right.
You think it's about right?
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, I'm really not trying to overreact to a road win over Russell Wilson, who just might be cooked despite being unlimited. Man, it's really hard for me. I mean, yeah, Buffalo sometimes kills teams. Yes, they're on the road. It looked awful on Monday night, and I'm trying not to buy into what we just saw. But everything that I was concerned about with Josh Allen, who still makes really, really boneheaded decisions, still trusts his arm talent, which honestly I think is forever potentially impaired until he gets a zipper on his elbow right here with Tommy John. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but I've got concerns. Josh McDaniels, I got concerns there too. There's a lot of concerns all over, but where Buffalo deserves to be a 9.5-point favorite is questionable to me. Next, we'll go to Kansas City at Jacksonville. KC opened a 3-point favorite with over under of 50. Still about that number. Total has climbed to 51. KC is certainly going to be pretty motivated to play well here after being embarrassed in their home stadium, but they also have kind of struggled against the spread for 2 or 3 years now. Travis Kelce didn't seem close to playing, maybe returns, but why would you risk that type of thing unless he's perfect? Chris Jones is probably going to sit out for 8 weeks. So I don't know. I don't see a lot changing for what to me was a pretty underwhelming Kansas City effort. That, I mean, there are these things with dynasties where it seems like they kind of turn it on late in seasons, and maybe there's a potential to get involved with a head and shoulders guy on the Jacksonville side, because Jacksonville, I mean, they finished last year really well, and they seem to be a tough team at home. I seem to remember them beating Dallas way back last year when Dallas was really starting to play well, if I remember correctly. So this doesn't seem like a shoe-in guaranteed Kansas City's going to win this game. And short road favorites are something that you don't want to bet in the NFL, in my humble opinion.
No. And if we can go back, it's a different circumstance, but I do think it's something that you should keep in mind. I mean, not you, as in I'm talking about you, the viewer, listener.
I'll keep it in mind. Keep going.
And you don't listen to anything I say. The Chiefs closed 7-point favorites at home in the playoffs against this same Jacksonville Jaguars team. Travis Kelce is worth what? A point? That's pretty steep in the NFL to say he's worth a point, but maybe. You're swinging that through. It's basically talking that this line is about the same. There's a whole lot of other pieces that need to go into that, but it is just something interesting to keep in mind. Jags offensive line was not very good in the first week. I like this team a lot. I like what their offense can do. I like Doug Peterson. Yeah, this is an interesting one. This might come back up later.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. So I do feel like Pat Mahomes is a lot healthier than when they played last year, to say the least. But unless he got injured in that game, I thought he was hurt before. But that's not really enough for me either. And I got to say, Kansas City's been so bad against the spread for years now that I feel like they're almost a team I want to just start with an opinion of why should I bet or why should I skip my bet against Kansas City? Not a lot of room to lose and cover with +3, but it is at home. We do tie. There are a lot of missed extra points. Harrison Butker is certainly not automatic at those from what I recall. So I feel like the 3, there's a little bit of interest there for me. And now I'll move to Baltimore, Cincinnati, which should be a great game. I love AFC North battles, but also might not be a great game considering what we saw from Cincinnati or didn't see, as I think I got a 0 from T. Higgins in fantasy. I think he had 8 targets and didn't catch a single one, which it seems to be impossible. But maybe he's still feeling from Monday night when he almost killed a guy last year. Currently, Cincinnati, they opened a 3.5-point favorite. Total was 47.5. It's dropped to 46.5, but the spread has pretty much remained. Maybe a little bit more love for Baltimore. Baltimore didn't look great. They played the worst team in the league. Hard to maybe get up for the opener against the worst team possible, but You would think it would have been a lot easier of a victory. What do you think about Lamar, this new offense? I don't think I'm concerned about them losing a running back because they have 3 others or 4 others or 6 others. I'm not sure about Mark Andrews, and it seemed to matter because likely didn't do anything as a replacement. But Cincinnati looks so bad. Do we think that it might be better to start with them? Do we expect they bounce back?
Yeah, and that's the game against the Browns is so tough to gauge because of the weather that we saw. Yeah, the Bengals, that offense is not. Joe Mixon to me is not. It's a contract year for him, and I'm not a fan of what he can do in the ground game. It's going to be one of those samples that we are probably going to have to throw out at some point. I think another thing to monitor is that the Bengals have lost their opener back-to-back years. They started slow last year. Maybe something to keep in mind as we see the evolution of Burrow's career. Yeah, the Ravens. I love I'm going to forget his name, the Georgia offensive coordinator that is now with the Baltimore Ravens.
Todd Monken.
Todd Monken.
Didn't expect me to get that one. Ha 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 ha.
You had it. But yes, it's going to take some time. I'm not worried about the running backs either. I think their vision is set, but they're not executing the way that they can. So 3.5 though, against one of the favorites to win that division. I like that one too.
I mean, so the Ravens, they won by 2 points at home early in the season last year, and then played the final week against Cincinnati, which I think there's reasonable expectations with me not remembering it. Easy for me to say that I don't think Baltimore was playing everybody in that January 8th game of last season.
Right.
And their quarterback was definitely not playing. So seems like a big price, which definitely doesn't feel like Baltimore is cheap here. So someone is certainly supporting that Cincinnati number, maybe not wanting to move it from game of the year, pre-week 1 type of numbers. But I got to think that if there's a way that line's moving, it's closer to 3 than it is to 4. To the later games, and we actually have 4 of them, thank God. The Giants visit Arizona, coming off a really disastrous performance. Couldn't have been any worse. To me, it was a really good start until the, I guess, drop, snap, blocked field goal, and then all of a sudden it was not a good start. Giants opened a 4.5 point favorite with an over/under of 38 at Arizona. Is now up to -5.5 despite those performances, and the total is 40. So we're expecting a little more offense, and it seems like it's coming from the Giants side. Explain that to me.
I guess the idea would be that the Giants have the better brains on their sideline, and that game could not have gone any worse.
Indeed.
You're talking about a 9-point swing with the blocked kick and then the return. You're talking about an interception return for a touchdown. The weather also there was terrible. Daniel Jones got all that money, and that's a concern. The Cardinals on the other side played Washington and covered, right? They covered.
I picked Washington as my survivor, just trying not to pick the Ravens. I was freaking out. Like, I was like, why is Arizona not dead yet? Kill these. I don't want to swear, it's family show. Kill these fuckers. Like, what is happening here? And they were live, I thought. And I was like, oh my God, I always lose. Like, this might happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Josh Dobbs, at least, like, they sought him out. They knew what they wanted there to fill in for while Kyler was gone. It was a late transaction, but he was comfortable with the playbook. So I think, like, the Cardinals are one of those teams that everyone just totally crapped on the entire offseason. And so you had a lot of people just being like, oh, it's just a team that's not going to go anywhere. 5.5. I think they're below average, and the Giants, it's a stinker, but I would still lean towards the favorite there.
Interesting.
Even after last week.
No chance for me. San Francisco at Los Angeles, the Rams version. San Francisco opened a 4.5 point favorite. It's 42.5 now. The spread has climbed to -8 with a 44.5 total, despite the Rams Very clear win against, I guess it didn't start clear. It wasn't that easy. San Francisco's win seemed to be, however.
Yeah, I think you had a lot of people, a lot of big money back in the Steelers in that game against the Giant or against the 49ers. So I think when you have that kind of opinion and the 49ers delivering above expectation, Brock Purdy proved us wrong for week one, at least, with, of course, a lot of help from Christian McCaffrey. Whoa, don't roll your eyes. Like that, this is exactly what Shanahan wants. This is what Shanahan wants from his offense. And I don't know if you want to get in the way of that.
I'm sorry you're not wearing the starter jacket that he bought for you, but I got to say, I feel like a lot of that was Pittsburgh and having this quarterback that everyone all of a sudden believed in that I still don't even think can throw a forward pass. Next, we'll move to the Jets at Dallas. Currently, the Jets a 3-point underdog. So Dallas -3 at home over under 46.5 has then dropped significantly to 39.5 with a point spread now to -9.5. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers matters a little bit. And his calf muscle is about as high up to his knee, maybe past that at that point, at least based on the replay I saw, which was gross. This Jets team, they were awesome, except for that quarterback thing last year. They thought they fixed that. No longer fixed. And now they're going to a team that couldn't have looked any better. Is there some value on the Jets here?
Yeah, of course there is. I think right after they officially announced Rodgers out for the year, Robert Saleh was saying, hey, everyone's already writing the obituary, somewhere along those lines, kind of thing. I love that coach speak. I love that coach speak. But I think that for a team like that, who really focuses itself on defense, like that, those kinds of messages work. As much as the Cowboys win 40-0, yes, that defense, the total makes complete sense because this could get real ugly. I still don't think we know very much about what Mike McCarthy's offense, what the Schottenheimer version of this offense looks like. It's hard for me to say, oh, this is there's no drop off from what Kellen Moore was able to do with the Cowboys offense.
Yeah, I think if you want to back the Jets, I think you back the total under. But the problem is the Cowboys just scored 40 points themselves, and that would push this one over if that same sort of thing happened. Washington visits Denver. We got currently the Denver Broncos, or I guess the open was -3.5. It's still there. Number's still around. Total, though, the over-under is 41.5, has now dropped to 38. Like I said, Washington kind of struggled with a really bad Arizona team. Denver, though, struggled worse with was supposed to be a really bad Las Vegas Raiders team. Is this I mean, I love Washington's interior defensive line. I think they can give a Denver offensive line problems. I know I usually defer to you on the trench wars, but tell me why I guess I shouldn't be backing or looking to back Washington here.
I think you do have some situations. You're talking about a team going across the country, you're going to altitude early in the season. Those things do matter. You need to factor it in a little bit. It wouldn't change much in the point spread, but it is part of the handicap. Teams still getting into shape, teams that aren't used to altitude coming in and early in the year, that makes a difference. Nothing about Washington really changed my mind that they are, yes, defensive line is super salty. I can't wait till we see Chase Young back in like full 100%. There's no real opinion I have on this game just because of both sides being pretty gross.
Well, I was waiting for you to say Sam Howell. That's a good reason. Next, we'll go for Sunday Night Football. We have Miami at New England, and the Miami Dolphins were a 2.5-point favorite at open with a total of 45. They're now just -2, but very juiced, and the over-under has moved up to 46.5. I think that's based on Miami and Los Angeles getting in the Chargers version, getting in a shootout. I have no expectations for a New England Patriots offense. I just don't. I don't really like the idea of laying points with Miami, but they did get a big win at the Chargers. I feel like if they were a dog here, I'd back them. I don't expect that to occur, clearly. Those numbers can move fast when they get below 3. Do you have a take on this one?
I was hoping you had some Foxborough magic. Like, is this because it's a primetime spot? These are usually the games that, especially in the NFL, make me uncomfortable when you've got those standalone spots and you see a number that looks pretty enticing after what we saw in week one. It just makes me a little nervous.
Got it. Now we move to 2 games on Monday night. I don't know why this is saying it.
Why do
Or
they do that in
it's
week
wrong.
2 and not week 1? I don't know.
I'm really confused, but maybe this is wrong, but I'm going with what it
No,
says.
it's right.
New Orleans at Carolina, a divisional matchup. New Orleans open a 1.5 point favorite, total of 42.5. Currently, New Orleans minus 3 point favorites, so they've gotten a little respect. Total has dropped to 40. New Orleans, I thought were pretty fortunate to win against Titans team that really went in there and played a very tough brand of football. I thought I was fairly impressed with Carolina's new quarterback, so maybe that's a nice thing to say about them. In divisions, tough to think about, but I don't feel like Carolina is a huge concern for a lot of other teams based on home field advantage.
No. Panthers are going to be that team. They're like, wow, man, they play really hard. That's like, you're going to be like that hardworking team that wins 4 games. I know. And so I'm trying to be concise on our timing here.
I got it. We're running out of time. So here we go. Last but not least, Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Cleveland opened a 1-point dog at Pittsburgh with a total of 43.5. They are now a 2-point favorite based on shellacking the Cincinnati Bengals. Over under is 39.5. Do we think that Pittsburgh, I mean, I feel like Pittsburgh at home is a tough beast, but San Francisco 49ers kind of look like they slayed it.
Certainly did. I think the Browns, there's nothing but positive that comes out of that game. Again, it's going to be a tough sample because of the weather, and that plays perfectly. Couldn't be a better matchup for the Browns to play in that kind of slog. Yeah, it's a division matchup that's going to be tight, and there's going to be no mystery here because both we know what Tomlin always wants to do, and we know the offensive MO for the Browns. So what's the total on this one? What are we looking
at? It is 39.5 down from 43.5. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're going to look at. I think this is a great question or great game to start seeing what Deshaun Watson is. Is he closer to what he was 3-4 years ago, or are we into a new era of Deshaun Watson, and that's more of a average to above average quarterback?
Yeah, yet to be seen. So we've now reached the best bet portion of the show. I know everyone is very interested. You probably fast forwarded it to here. Rewind back, listen to the rest of us. Of course, follow us on Twitter, _Schnicker. I don't have time to spell it out for this one, the real _G Warner. And I'll start with best bets for this week. I'll give you a chance, Nick, to wait and come up with your own. I'm not going too far from where the milk and honey got me last week on my best bet, which Tennessee, a 3-point underdog at home to the Los Angeles Chargers. Early start. I think they're going to play the game they want to play, which is run the football and make it really difficult for the opponents to score points. So take Tennessee +3 at home against the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday in the early slot.
Well, I'm not straying too far away. I was bouncing back and forth between two ideas here. I'm not straying too far away from something that a team that I like this season. And so I'm going to go with the Falcons +1.5 against the Packers. That, the Mercedes-Benz Dome, the Falcons fans, whenever they think they got a chance, they actually do show out. Let's see what this Jordan Love magic really is all about.
Wow. Okay. So there we go. For this episode number 3 of Betting the Pitch NFL edition, we got Tennessee Titans +3, my best bet. And of course, Andrew Schnicker, he's going with Atlanta Falcons +1.5. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back here on Tuesday night, assuming the creek doesn't overflow and we have to figure out some other thing. But we'll see you all and talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening, and follow us on Twitter, slide some DMs, and we'll talk to you all very soon.